Yo, what's up, everybody? I am super sorry that I'm a little late starting the stream. I was out having a celebratory lunch with my wife. Absolutely amazing news. I am so excited to say that I am no longer unemployed. Yeah, I am very proud to say that I am now the principal software engineer over at Geocodio. Absolute dream job. They have been in and around the Laravel community for a very long time. I've watched them grow, and I am just so excited to join the team. Every aspect of the role is stuff that I'm interested in and excited about. It's everything. So I am just tickled. And so my wife and I went out and had a celebratory lunch about it. And now we're going to dive into some Sparkle and talk about that. So where we left off yesterday, we left off putting together tool functionality with Anthropic inside of our Anthropic provider. We basically got to the point where we could see some of the messaging coming back that it was in fact using tools, but we had just hard coded the tools value. Hey, what's up, Alan? Welcome to the stream. So we had got to the point where we put together a test for tool use, and we were seeing, like, we hard coded the value of the output of the tool, and we saw in our debugging that it was actually using the tool. And I remember being pretty surprised that everything worked because we were just kind of trying things out. So I've got a little bit of a time crunch today, but let's dive right in. Grab my screen here. All right. So this is our Anthropic provider. Let's take a little bit and just walk through everything here. So we have our Anthropic provider, and this is provided to our application using the same exact mechanisms that Laravel uses for their cache provider, using like the manager provider pattern. I'm forgetting the exact name of the design pattern, but we can take a look at our provider manager class, and we'll see that we defaulted to our OpenAI driver. And then we kind of have this method here to create our OpenAI driver, and then we have another method to create our Anthropic driver, and then inside of our config file, we kind of drive out those config values based on environment variables. So before we dive in, I need to make sure that those environment variables are available for us as we run our test suite. Thank you for the compliment on the code. I definitely try to keep everything as clean as possible. And I'm a very, one of the things that draws me to Laravel is I feel like I'm a very like aesthetic driven coder. I like my code to like look, and very emotive programmer. I like to make sure like my code feels good to me when I look at it and when I write it and when I use it. So it's very like vibes based coding. So we're going to use my helper I put together called With Secrets. It's built on top of Charm CLI's Skate tool, SKATE, and that's a way for being able to kind of like mask your secrets in a command call. So I have all of these here, and with a With Secrets allows me to access my Skate library and then expose them as environment variables. So we're going to want Anthropic. We are going to also want OpenAI in case we do anything with OpenAI. We've loaded those variables up. We can hop right back into the code. Let's run our test suite, make sure we're in good shape. That one should take a while because we've got some debug calls still in there, and I think maybe an error, but we'll dive into that in a second. So we use like a manager pattern, and you'll see that this is our provider manager is actually extending the Illuminate support manager. So that's how these providers are being used. And so based on our our provider, like our LLM provider contract, we have a handful of methods that we have to implement thanks to a base class that I'm providing for internal use. But if someone wants to use it externally, that's fine too. We leave everything public so anybody can use them. And I mean, we have to expose these options anyways to be used, but it's an abstract class that we extend. We bring in our config variables, and then all we have to implement inside of this method publicly is our chat method and our chat stream method. So for right now, our chat stream method, that exposes, we return a generator. But what we're going to do just for ease, like sake of ease, as we get into this and as we're like developing this, streaming chat is kind of challenging to implement. And why is this is the response. This is like an example response from OpenAI that we get back as like our stream of messages. And this is server side events. So we have to parse these and deal with things a little bit different because everything starts coming in as chunks. So we're going to leave implementing stream to like streaming chat probably for like Monday or Tuesday next week. But we'll dive into that then. So we're just focusing on our chat method for now. So we have, we take our client, we post to the messages endpoint, we build up our request. And by building up our request, we're setting the model, which is something that's set as a class variable. We set our configuration option for our max tokens. We're setting just some sane defaults here. We pass in all the messages that are part of a conversation in a chat context, because for even completions, Anthropic and OpenAI have depreciated their just regular text completion endpoint in favor of the chat endpoints. So if you're chasing doing just like a single round of completion where you have your prompt and you just take the completed output of that, you're going to be basically sending a single message conversation. So a lot of times when we talk about this, we're going to be talking in sort of a chat context, even when you're not using it as a chat method. And then we have our tools, and we just have some, helpers around converting our DTOs, for like our message DTO, into the format necessary for Anthropic. And same with our tools. We take our tool object and we map that into the schema for Anthropic. And this is work we did yesterday. And we have like another helper method just to kind of format our tool fields, which is done as a JSON, like a partial JSON schema object. I say partial not because it's a partial object, but there's like partial support for the JSON schema spec. And what we need to focus on today is this method here, this handle tool calls, because we're not actually calling any tools at this point. Let's go take a look at our Anthropic test. So we've got our first test here, which I think is going to throw an error no matter what. I think it's calling both of these. So I think if we just mark all right, cool. We should have, okay, good. We have passing tests. Because the test names are so similar, this it can send chat requests, and then we have it can send chat requests with tools. When I was running the nearest test, it was actually matching both of them and running both of them. And this one's going to fail here because of the tool use. And so yesterday we defined this weather tool, and we said it would be like 75 and sunny. So we just kind of like hard coded that value, and we're dump dying the chat response. So the reason this is failing is because we're not handling tool calls correctly. So if we go up to our chat method, what we can do is we can drop in right here. We can just dump die the response that we're getting back from Anthropic. We'll rerun our tests and we'll see that it is using the tool call. So we say to get the current weather conditions for Detroit, I can use the weather function. Let me fetch that information for you. We see that it does give us a tool use call. Our tool ID, it's going to give us the tool that it wants to call, and it's going to send us the input, which we've defined as city of Detroit. We get our stop reason of tool use, which is what we're looking for, and we get some additional usage tokens. We're going to have to circle back to both OpenAI and Anthropic to handle adding these usage metrics in an abstracted way. That's one of the reasons we haven't done it yet, is I need to take a look at both OpenAI's output, like the way that they structure their metadata around token usage, and we're going to need to do the same for Anthropic. So I kind of need to take a closer look at both of those so I can come up with a sane abstraction. All right, so we have our test, right? And we see that it's choosing to use tools. It's giving us the arguments. So we know that it's correctly registering the tools. So when we get down here, we see the message type is tool use. We're checking for the stop reason of tool. So now we know we're in the context of tool use. So we're looking at, for each of those, let's take a look at that again. All right, so we have inside of this array of messages we get back, we do have a text message, and then we have our tool use message. So what we're wanting to do there is loop through all of the content responses. We're going to add to our array of messages that are part of this conversation the message that we got from the assistant who's saying, hey, I'm going to have to use this tool. And then if we have a tool type, this is where we're going to drop in and handle tool calls. And yesterday we left this big note for ourselves to investigate if and when Anthropic has multiple tool calls, if this will still work, or if we have to make some adaptations, if it's going to call multiple tools in one go or not. I actually tested this earlier this morning just to make sure that we were going about this in a sane way without having to fumble too much around screen. But let's just walk through that because I kind of like to handle this first before we decide how we're going to handle tool calls. So let's go back to our test. You know what? We have, I use NeoVim and Tmux. We have a handful of buffers open. We're just going to clean things up. And now let's go and take a look at our Anthropic test. And if I don't fat finger everything, we can get back to it. Cool. I'm going to go back and add this here too. All right. So we know we're in here. Let's define another tool to use. We'll create a search tool. And one thing I need to do is I do need to make a facade abstraction for our tools so we don't have to wrap it like this. Or an upcoming PHP 8.4, I think we'll be able to just do this. But for now, we're just going to leave it this way. All right, so let's give a description. If I could only type. That seems to be a big theme of us live streaming together is we find out that I'm not really an accurate typist. All right. Of course, now my shirt's wet. They're real fancy of me. This is useful. Our parameter is going to be query. And And let's go ahead and update this to query. It's still going to be a string. And let's say, let's update this message first so that you understand where we're heading with this. Now, this is a common use case that I use for a lot of my testing, is like, especially with tools, is I like to ask a question. And this is kind of born out of my talk from PHP Tech. We were out at the speaker dinner together, and I was talking to Grumpy Programmer. We started talking about the Detroit Tigers and his love of baseball. And that really kind of like gave me this perfect example where we can ask our agent a question that's going to require it to use two tools to answer. And the question being, what time is the Tigers game today? And should I wear a coat? And so if we give it a search tool and a weather tool, that's going to need to use both tools to give us an answer. It's going to have to search for the time of the Tigers game, and it's going to have to search the weather to see if we're going to need a coat. And then it also kind of just tests the inference of taking both of those tool answers and giving us a nice composite response. And I kind of like to see how it responds with the answer of those tools. So let's go ahead and add that as our message. And then we already know that we have, for the weather tool, we've hard coded that the weather is going to be 75 and sunny. And so let's give what we'd probably get back as a search result using something like the SERP API, which if we look at the example app that I use, like, this is not only an example Laravel application, but this is the application that I use to interact with the agents that I use on like a day-to-day basis. So this is also me dog fooding my tool set for my own personal tool suite. So if we look, we've defined a search tool. And if we go and look at that functionality, we're actually using the SERP API to take the query from the agent, and then we do a little manipulation of the results. We have a blade view. If we take a look at that, what was that called? Search with... and this is what we do. We loop through the results and we kind of build up a, it's going to format as soon as I save, but we kind of build up this XML result. I find that LLMs kind of perform a little better with XML over JSON. So that's why we're kind of formatting this as a sort of XML result. And then we give it an example and tell it to please always cite your sources. And the reason we do that is we can't implicitly trust that an LLM is going to be accurate at this point. So we want to cite its sources so that we can either double check it and just kind of have a sanity check on what sources it's using to get its information. So we can kind of expose some of the inner workings to double check everything. So so this is like a pretty practical example that we'll be working through here. If I can only type the right thing that I want. So we know that a search tool is like super realistic. So like a result that it might get back from this today, we can say that we're just going to say that like it's the game's at 3 p.m. in Detroit, home game. All right, so now we have two tools. We have a search tool and a weather tool. We've kind of like mocked out all the responses for everything. So let's go back here. We're still dump dying our raw response that we're getting back from the LLM. So let's go ahead and run this test. See what we get. Awesome. So we're still getting a tool use call. We're seeing the tool response here in the messages that it's going to query for. So we'll get the answer. We're going to use the search tool and then check the weather for you. So we know that it's aware of both tools, right? Because it said that it's going to check, and it's going to like search and check the weather. And then we know that it's going to do the search first. And this is the query that it's going to use: Detroit Tigers baseball game today time, which is a fine query for Google. I'd probably do something similar if it was like just me Googling for a response. All right, so we know that if we attach, like based on this comment block, we know if we attach multiple tools, we're getting one tool call at a time. And we also take a further look at this function. We're going to recurse on chat. So that's perfect. So we know that each time it's going to give us a tool call, we're just going to recurse and call the next tool as part of the conversation. And so right here, you can see we're adding to the messages this hard-coded tool response of the weather's going to be 75 and sunny. And this is what we were using yesterday just to kind of sanity check everything and make sure that the system was working correctly. But we need to actually call our tools. So let's go down to our handle tool calls method. And we had initially copied and pasted this from OpenAI, and OpenAI and Anthropic handle things definitely differently. So I think we're going to move away from an array of tool calls, but we're still going to be passing in an array. If we look at our chat method here, we're going to just slow scroll because I'm being lazy. We're still going to pass in a message, and that message that we're going to be getting in, if we look up here, is not our abstraction of a message, but it's our message that's coming from the LLM, and we define that. We're looping through the responses, defining the message. So this is going to be out of that content array. So we know that that's going to be oops. We're going to rerun that test because what we're going to do is we're going to grab our example message. So this is going to be our tool use message. So we're going to grab that. We're going to come down here and we're going to say, excuse my dogs. They're very excited. I don't know if you could hear that or not. Our screecher, Vesta. All right, so we're just going to comment that here so we know what we're working with. So this is what the incoming message is going to look like. So it's still an array, but it's not quite the same. So we know that we're going to have this, I think, all still holds true. We'll have, we're going to change this to tool call, and we'll have PHP Stan maybe yell at us when we're done seeing what that, if we've typed these out correctly or not. So we're not actually dealing with multiple tool calls anymore, so we can get rid of that. We're not returning a message, at least at this point. We'll probably refactor that. And so let's just say we're going to return mixed. We're going to cheat a little bit, and we'll definitely refactor that a little later. I think this is left over from that loop. Save real quick to get some reformatting. Awesome. So we're just ripping through some stuff. We're returning, we had an error here because we're returning mixed. We're not returning anything at all yet. We're not pushing to this messages array anymore. I want to make a change on this because right now we're making the observation call for tools being called inside of both the Anthropic provider and the OpenAI provider. But I think what we can do real quick is actually, I think we can go to our tool class. And oh no, I overflowed my paste buffer. I know this isn't going to import a function, so I feel my LSP, my language server, I think is taking a dive. There we go. That's something I probably need to take a look at. All right, so we've got the called tool is actually going to be parameters, and we're going to have to do great. I think that's a nice little refactor, and then we can go to our OpenAI provider, and we can pull the observation call out as well. All right, so back to what we were originally doing. I just like to scout like that. If I see it in the moment, I just want to get that refactor taken care of. I don't have any tests at the moment that are asserting that there's going to be an observation made. That's something that I probably should go back and do, because tracing is so important as part of large language models, especially with enabling tool calls. We need to make sure that we're taking a path and not like calling the same tool 5 times in a row. So observations is a huge part of this. So it's definitely something I should go back and test. All right, so getting the called tool. We are not going to be getting function.name. Our tool name is going to be nested under just name. This is going to be, I don't think we have to JSON decode this anymore, but we are going to need I think that should get us our input, and I think we can just return this. All right, so I think we can delete this now. We have the result. I think we can oops. Nope. If I can only type. Oh my goodness gracious. There we go. All right, let's get rid of this dump die here and go to our test. Make sure we're still dump dieing there. YOLO, let's see what we got. This is promising. Hey, let's read through this. I think as I hit my mic, I think we just got this to work, which is super exciting. All right, great. I have all the information. What time is the Tigers game today? It's at 3 p.m. in Detroit. Today, should I wear a coat? Based on the weather forecast for Detroit, you won't need a coat. The weather will be 75 and sunny, which is quite warm and pleasant. A light jacket or sweater might be comfortable if you tend to get chilly in air-conditioned spaces, but a coat would likely be too warm for today's weather conditions. Enjoy the game. Nice weather. We did it. That's super exciting. I'm really glad that went smooth and that we're to a pretty solid place. We have our tool use. We got through both tool calls. There's definitely more stuff that needs to be done, but I think we have the basics in here. Wow, I'm just so tickled that we got that to work. Let's before we go up and like finish writing out our tests, I think let's run some PHP stan and see what we've got going on. Okay. We got one error, which isn't too bad. I don't think we have that level of nesting. Let's see if PHP stan likes us at all. Okay, that's fine. Right, because we're going to have not even an array of int strings. I think we have... Yeah, right, because we have our tool call, which is going to have... It's an associative array with strings that can also be... That'll be nested as an array, an associative array of strings with strings. Actually, I think this could also be integers. Okay, it's fine. It's mad at us about line 43, right? Because we're JSON encoding. I think we can be... I think we can just kind of like do that. Let's see what we get. All right, awesome. I knew I was close on the expression there, right? So basically we're saying like, if this JSON encode is successful, then the result will be the JSON encode. If not, we'll just return an empty string, and that'll just kind of give us some error prevention there. We should probably... is that okay? I think that's fine. I don't know what happens here if we do something silly. We should... Yeah, cool. I threw that exception. All right, cool. I just wanted to make sure we didn't like suppress exceptions the way that we did that. All right, so we've got our chat method. We've got it calling tools. We recurse and get through both tools. So let's go finish writing our test. All right, so we look up at our other test that we wrote for chat request. Because we're using the HTTP helper, we can super easily mock our requests. We'll probably want to move that prevent stray requests back up into our for each at some point, but I kind of want to keep them separated because we are going to actually make a few more real calls. So we're going to not run that, and the expected response we haven't defined yet, so we're just going to copy this and then comment it out. So we are going to have actually a few API calls that are going to be made. So we're going to actually need let's see, we have 1, 2, I think we're going to have 3 calls. I wonder if I have this set up correctly to do this. Oh, Bug Brigader's already running. All right. we're going to step through something, show off like a little bit of my like tool suite and things that I use. I use a custom app called Unite. And this comes from SetApp. I'm sure you can get it elsewhere, but I really like this because it allows you to create apps from web pages. So we're going to create a new one for Bugregator. This is one of my favorite debugging tools. I use it a lot with Ray for getting like dump dies and Ray information. I can capture all of that, but it also works with like capturing calls to Sentry, Xdebug, all sorts of stuff. Bugregator.dev is where you can find it. What we're going to do is 8001. We're going to do, we're going to skip all of this and just create the app. Awesome. So here's Bugregator. It's already got some events. Why does it already have, oh, I think it's getting our observation events already. So remember that we had just moved that observe call into our tool class for observing when tools are going to get called. Let's rerun this test and see if we're getting those results already in here. Those could have been from yesterday and messing around with other things. Nope, that is what we're getting. No, this is our dump die in our test call, right? See, it's coming from our Anthropic test class on line 103. So this is using Ray, and it's pulling from the log that we're dump dying. So this is an awesome tool. Like I said, it can capture stuff from Sentry, profiling. I'm pretty sure that's through Xdebug. It also has an SMTP server. So if you need to like test mailables and email, you can get your HTTP dumps. It's got like var dump capture. You could take a monologue driver and point it to this, or it has Ray dumps, some configurations. Like, I love this so much. It can do just about everything. So this is our dump die, which is great. One of the things that I want to do is I want to see how many calls we're getting, but I also want to get the responses so that we can use those and just kind of like mock this entire series of requests so that we can have a test that doesn't actually have to reach out to Anthropic unless we want it to. So let's go back to our Anthropic provider. Let me check the time. I've got probably 10, 15 more minutes. Gonna run a little short today. Got a couple errands that I need to go run before I pick my son up from school. Let's see. What are we doing? Okay, yeah. Cool. So we have one request, two requests. Is there a third? There is a third. No, there's not a third. There's just the two requests, which is fine. I was kind of expecting 3, if I'm being honest. Oh, there was 3. Okay, the other ones just came in so fast. Here, we'll clear this one out, and let's go ahead and clear. No, we want the final message. So there were 3 calls because that's what I thought. We were going to have like the initial call that tells us I need to use the search tool. And then we have the next one that actually uses that tool and then uses the weather tool. And then we need to like then generate the final response. So what we're going to do, can I just copy this? Oh, ooh, you can create an image from this. That is pretty neat. I've not noticed that feature before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this. We'll copy it. Let's go over to Open Web UI. We will create, so you can see kind of the search results from our search tool in our app that I kind of showed a little bit earlier. Create a new message. We're going to use, let's use 4.0 for this one. And we're going to say, see if this gets it right the first time. Oh, it does. All right, so we took our debugging output, which has like, this is an array with 8 items in it. This is index 0 with an array of 2 items. And then we have our like little caret shape. We want to get rid of all of that and just have like an actual array. So I like to, this is like such a perfect thing for large language models to do. Let's make sure this was the first one, right? Yep. All right. Using Sparkle to build Sparkle. All right, so we know we're going to have these fake requests. I think we're missing. Oops. I think we actually want to do this. Oh, nope. We'll come up here. We'll fix this. We'll do a little bit cleaner copy and paste next time. So that should be the first call. Let's expand these. Oops, what the? Oh, we're also getting observer output from our application. So we have the first message we already did. We have the second message we need to copy. Hopefully I won't fat finger shortcuts this time. Switching keyboards too often. I can't keep where everything is. So we'll try to do a little bit cleaner copy this time. We're gonna cheat. We're using Vim, but we're also using our mouse. All right, and then we need to get our third one. And this should be the last one we need. We're gonna cheat with our mouse again. All right, so we're going to just test this out. We're going to grab our prevent stray request. We're going to throw that in here now. Hey, that's pretty slick. You see how fast that is working? It means we're using all of our mocks, which is great. So now we need to add an actual assertion in here. This test is getting a little crazy, but it's okay. Because chat returns our message abstraction, so we can just go ahead and grab the content off of that message. And then after we get this done, we're probably going to call it on the stream for today, and then we'll pick back up on Monday. I don't know. Who knows? I might stream over the weekend. Kind of see how that goes. I don't know. Hey, this is sweet. I'm very excited about this. Clean up a little formatting. Let's take a look at how this looks. This is a little wild. I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to put it back up here. And then we'll toggle those around when we go to implement the rest of our tests. Because if we look down here, we have like streaming chat requests. Let's add another test for streaming chat requests with tools, which is like a whole nother beast in itself for sure. So let's just kind of like zoom out. I know this isn't going to be super readable, but I kind of want to see how this code is all flowing. I might want to break this out into like a fixture class at some point, but I also don't want to like lose the context of what we're doing here inside of the test. So we've got the two tools, the LLM, the expectation. All right, so let's run our test suite. This is awesome. Nuno Maduro, you are incredible. This is because we're using the PHP, the pest architecture test. And one of the pest architecture tests we have in here is that we're not using debugging tools inside of the main code base. And we left a call to Ray inside of our Anthropic provider from when we were debugging. And so that test caught it. So this is exactly why you want to use pest architecture tests. And recently announced at Laracon coming in Pest 3, which I believe is going to be out very soon. Whole new set of architecture test presets. I am so excited about that. I cannot wait to drop them in here and get those also working. So let's go to our Anthropic provider. We'll fix our zoom so y'all can read this. We'll get rid of that. Let's run our test suite. Awesome. We have our whole test suite running. Let's run PHP scan across the whole code base. No errors. We are cooking, folks. Not ghost script. Get status. All right. If y'all want to see, hey, Alan, thank you so much for joining the stream. Hopefully you'll join us again soon. I may stream this weekend, but for sure I'll be back next week, Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday I start my new job. I'm so excited. And so we will, like, once I start that, we'll kind of figure out what kind of streaming schedule works, because I am loving doing this. And so we're going to keep it going. We just might pick up like 3 days a week instead of every day. We might kind of move around the time a little bit to find something a little bit more consistent. So Another tool in my toolbox is LazyGit. Love LazyGit. Has all sorts of fantastic pieces of functionality inside of it where we can like stage different things. We can go over and stage like individual pieces. We can kind of like chunk up what we're staging. Fantastic tool. But what we're going to do is just git commit all. You see that on commit, we're running Pint, we're running PHP stand just to make sure that everything is sane. So we're just going to cut a real quick commit here that we finished function calling for chat. Cool. All right. On that note, we are going to wrap up for today. If you'd like to make sure you catch all of this, go make sure you follow me on Twitter at Hey TJ Miller. I guess it's X now, but I kind of have an allergy to calling it that. So you can follow me over there at TJ Miller. You can subscribe to me on YouTube at not TJ Miller or Twitch at the TJ Miller. Got to play around with names there based on what's available. So again, that's Hey TJ Miller on Twitter, not TJ Miller on YouTube, and the TJ Miller on Twitch. And a huge, massive shout out to PHP Architect for also co-hosting today's stream. And you can find them most places at PHP Arch. And if you're into speaking at conferences, they recently opened up their call for presenters. So if you've got some ideas and you want to speak at a conference, absolutely submit over there. If you're not interested in talking, definitely consider heading out to that conference this year. I can almost guarantee that I will be there, either attending or speaking. Good chance of doing both. So yeah, check that out. And if you do feel so inclined, I do have a GitHub sponsors page. You can head on over there. Got a few tiers. Would love and appreciate all of your support. So yeah, thank you for joining today's stream. We will be back on Monday for sure. And hopefully by then I'll be able to talk a little bit more about what the streaming schedule looks like moving forward. Thank you so much. We'll see y'all soon.